La Sémantique, an introduction to meaning. This video is dedicated to late Muhammad Khris, my student. May God have mercy on his soul. Well, semantics, logic, philosophy, all these disciplines are interwoven. They sometimes deal with the same subject. The goal is truth and making sense of things. If we start with philosophy, I would just put it very simply. It's a big question mark about man, about nature, about God. I still remember attending a lecture by two professors, one a believer, a Christian, and one an atheist, and they discussed whether God existed or not at the University of Washington in 1995. So philosophy is a big question mark. But logic tries to find reasonable answers. And since history is divided into BC, before Christ, and after Christ, I saw it adequate and appropriate to divide my research into logic and philosophy before Christianity and after Christianity. Well, usually before Christianity you have the Greeco-Roman culture. Well, you might ask me, why should we pay attention to this culture? The answer is that it is the first heritage of the Western culture, and it's the key to understanding many things in the modern times. As an example, if you read the poetry of modern Khris S.Eliot, you find him referring to Achilles' heel, and Achilles is a myth, an ancient hero of the Greeks. Also, you might ask me, why Greco-Roman? Well, simply because at one time the Romans were very strong militarily and they invaded Greece, but the Greeks were clever enough to invade their minds, and they eventually made up one culture, Greco-Roman. It's made up of myths, science, logic, everything. I will stick to just one or two myths of the Greek-Romans, which are Androcles and Damocles. Well, Androcles is the story of a slave who's thrown into the Colosseum with a lion to be devoured by the lion and fight and defend himself if he could. But this lion didn't touch him, and it was amazing, and the king, the emperor, couldn't understand. But they found out later that this slave had cured the lion in the forest, so the lion was becoming like a friend. Now, Damocles is the story of, again, a king who has a host. He offered him a big meal, I suppose, but he had a sword hanging on his head, tied to a hair. It was scary. Well, this is symbolical for the fact that joy and happiness is not everlasting. Well, amongst the most famous thinkers and philosophers of old Greece, we can mention Plato, Socrates, and Aristotle. Where Plato could be summarized, well, not really totally, but to illusion. He says that we human beings do not have access to the truth, the reality, or do not see the true things. We are living in an illusion. And he's got a story, very famous story, the story of the cave, with people attached and they couldn't see the real things. Now, before him came, his student Socrates. He was ugly physically, but he had a good mind. And he used la maïeutique, tawlid al-uqul. He thought that everybody has got God-given truth in his mind, but he cannot get access to it. He needed someone like Socrates to ask him questions so as to grasp the truth which is in his mind. But unfortunately, the end of Socrates was quite pathetic, because he had to drink the cup of poison. And finally, the champion of logic is Aristotle with his concepts, categories, and syllogism. This is the most important. So for Plato, it's illusion, Socrates, meiotics, and Aristotle, syllogism. The famous syllogism is to say that all men are mortal. Socrates is a man. Conclusion: Socrates is mortal. I moved to metaphysics because these people were talking about everything: physics, astronomy, metaphysics, God, etc. So for Aristotle, he says that for every moving, there is a mover. The world is moving. Therefore, it has an unmoved mover, which he calls theos, and hence the Spanish word Dios, and Dieu, God. Thank you.